Welcome to the very first episode of Free Tendies Fantasy. I am one of your co-hosts, Ted, and I'm here today with my other co-host, Yanni. How you doing, buddy?
So I mean,
So today we're going to be getting into our Degenerate Gambling episode of the week. Week one of football, I cannot be more excited. And man, there's nothing better than picking games that you don't really have any idea what's going to happen in. So we'll just do some quick housekeeping and fantasy hot takes. So believe it or not, we've already put in about 15 to 20 hours of work in on this podcast. And this is our first time trying to record anything, and we screwed up the audio. Yanni sounded like a ghost in the next room. We could barely hear him. And we scrapped all of the work we had done on making our preseason fantasy tier lists. So do you have any hot takes that you want to just like share that you might have missed from missing out on that time?
right. I mean, we'll make sure to get you guys our tier list and stuff more so we can have our takes on video because we worked real hard on them. But as far as general stuff this year that I'm looking out for in terms of the betting wise, my dark horse of the year is for sure the Atlanta Falcons. I think if you're looking at season long stuff, their win total looks really good. I like their odds to win the division. But for fantasy, I said at the end of last year, it was really odd to me the way running back busted in a big way. A lot of people got burnt. I think running back this year was not valued correctly. I think a lot of people overreacted to the split backfields thing. Weirdly enough, the one that they didn't overreact to, Gibbs and Montgomery, looks kind of interesting after the first game last night. But I think this year, I think those fourth round running backs we saw, Brees Hall, Kenneth Walker, I think those guys might be league winners. So I'm really big on that. And then for tight end, my big take this year that I'm so proud of, I think Dalton Schultz is going to outscore Pitts by the end of the season. So that's my big one.
As a Kyle Pitts truther, that one really hurts me to hear you say. But I mean, we'll see, right? I guess I'll keep mine brief. My two biggest hot takes of this year are number one, Saquon Barkley becomes the number one scoring fantasy running back this year. He is going to be the premium pick of the first round. And hot take number two is that the Patriots are going to be an unmitigated disaster this year. I'm talking 4-13, 5-12. Bill Belichick says, "Screw this, I'm out," and just quits, and he retires from football. I know we've been saying that for a long time, but now that he's been in the league longer than Tom, why are you still doing it, right? Like, I really, truly think that team is terrible this year, and I would fade them. But anyways, we also, since we just launched our podcast, we still don't have a logo. So if you want to, and you're actually watching this video, in the comments, let us know what type of logo you think we should do. We were kicking around a couple ideas before recording. So some of the stuff we landed on were potentially commissioning an artist to do our logo for us. We were potentially thinking of hiring somebody from Fiverr to do the logo for us. And if we do, and if hiring someone from Fiverr does win, if it does win whatever consensus that there is, I'll record a video of us submitting the application to Fiverr and kind of our reaction to what it is they give us. Or another idea that we had is Ted can just draw the logo. And just for the record, I am the world's worst artist. It's really embarrassing, and it will look like shit. So please, please don't pick that option. But yeah, if you like any of those ideas or have any other ones, let us know in the comments. And who knows, if we don't have that many viewers, you may have a lot of pull in the direction that the logo goes. So anyways, let's get into the picks for week one. Me and Yanni will be competing this year against each other in football picks. We will be making 5 of them a week, and we can bet against the spread, we can bet money line, and we can bet over-unders. So we'll be keeping track of just kind of our picks and how they go. We'll have a total win-loss record. We'll have parlays if we want to do them, and we'll have our potential return on a $100 bet. So $100 is going to be our unit. If we parlay games, it's going to be based on that $100 unit. And if we pick the game individually, it's like we spent $100 on our pick. And we'll see how well or how terribly we do during the year. Yanni is not as seasoned of a gambler as me. I am a nerd who just sits and watches football all day and has strong opinions. So I think I'm pretty good at this, and I'm going to crush him.
Probably. Probably.
We'll
I wouldn't bet on me. That's probably a good, yeah.
Yeah, you sandbagging me right now, dude?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, I'd say we'll see. I
well,
like my picks this week.
I think there is one just a pick that you made. It is screaming Homer pick to me. Just it's
Yep.
yelling Homer pick to me. But
Yeah, probably.
yeah. So let's get into the game breakdowns, and we'll kind of explain why we like or don't like the games and why we made the picks we did.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Post edit Ted here. So when we were recording, we got a little excited and forgot to kind of explain what our picks are for the week. So just gonna do the too long didn't read version. So my picks for this week are the Bengals -2.5, the Jags -4.5, the Eagles -4, Packers money line, and Bills -2.5. And what these highlights mean are that I'm parlaying these three games together. So I'm parlaying the Bengals, Eagles, and Bills. And Yanni's picks for the week are the Falcons -3.5, the Seahawks -5.5, the Eagles -4, the Bears -1.5, and the Niners -2.5. And he is parlaying the Falcons, Eagles, and Bears. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the video.
So the first one on the docket is one of my picks. I had the Bengals -2.5. The Bengals are going into Cleveland to play the Browns, and the over/under is 47.5. Right now, 77% of the money is on the Browns against the spread, and 85% of the bets are on the Browns against the spread. So the public certainly does not agree with me on this. And you know what? To me, this game comes down to a couple things. Number one is if Deshaun Watson still has it. We saw at the end of last year, the last 6 games that he played, he looked terrible. The offense couldn't move the ball. Every single fantasy asset and every single offensive asset on the team struggled from him not being able to move the ball and not being good at the quarterback position. So it just comes down to, is he his prime self, or is he what we saw last year and the reports we've been hearing in training camp where beat reporters have said they have not seen consecutive complete passes from Deshaun Watson. So to me, I'm still leaning towards he's not back yet. And how many times have we seen this? We've seen it with Le'Veon Bell. We've seen it from Michael Thomas. I don't think that an extended absence from this league playing the game at this speed can be overstated. And I think until he proves me wrong, I think he can't ball anymore. And on the other side, you have Burrow and Chase Higgins, one of the most dynamic passing attacks in the league. To me, that's easy money. I think that a lot of people get caught up in the idea of a line that looks too good to be true. And, at the end of the day, I don't care. I really don't care. If this is a trap and the Browns somehow pull this out, which I don't understand why 85% of the bets are on them. If you're watching this, please don't bet on the Browns. Don't do it. Take the Bengals. But you know what? You can laugh at me if I'm wrong on this one. But to me, this is not only like a fantastic pick. This is my pick of the week. I'm just putting it out there right now. This is my flag plant. The Bengals are going to stomp the Browns. The Browns are still the Browns. So, anyways, we'll get
So,
on. Oh.
how worried are you? How worried are you about the loss of Jesse Bates? Their strong safety's gone too. There has been a track record of historical success recently, the last four to 6 games of the Browns against the Bengals. Joe Burrow had a calf injury. To what degree does any of that concern you, or you're good? You're all in.
I don't doubt probably the second or third best quarterback in the league. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter if your safeties aren't there if you can't throw the ball. And I don't think Deshaun could throw the ball. So I'm not worried at all. I think that this is like, I don't know. To me, this just reeks of like people who are trying to outthink the room on this one. Like, how long have
Right.
the Browns been terrible, right? Like, how long have they been bad? What changed? Why are we on them all of a sudden? Why do we think that they can compete with a top AFC team? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, I guess you could say the AFC North games are pretty tight. Like, and yeah, sure, but like to me, like it's not even a contest, man. Give me Joe Burrow. Give me Joey all
Well,
day.
yeah, you kind of get that feeling with the Bengals. They feel like they should be a Super Bowl contender every year, So
Yeah,
you imagine they're going to come in this year with. There was some debate about whether or not Joe Burrow's calf injury was actually in a hold-in, over his contract. So you do wonder, like, does he come back hyped up? Man, the man's well paid. They're ready to go. I think you're right. I'm shocked to see the degree to which the market's on the Browns. Be interesting to see.
isn't that weird? I don't know, man. You know what? If the
Yeah, I think
Bengals can't
game.
win this game, they have no business saying that they're a Super Bowl team. Honestly, to me, like, you're
Well,
pretending.
right.
You're pretending if you
It's
can't
like a
beat the
measuring
Browns.
stick game.
Yeah.
It's like a measuring stick game. But then there's the Coverse is also. I guess we just don't know. We have to see it. if Deshaun Watson comes out flat after now half a season, an off season, and this season, all of a sudden the talk starts, man, is that the worst contract in NFL history? It's very exciting. It's a very exciting game. I'm actually really, I'm elated to watch it.
I know this isn't the hot take episode, but I think right now it probably is. And I don't even know. I think if he sat out those games, maybe this isn't the case. But it's like Hercules got his hair cut off. He's not the same guy.
I think if Kadarius Toney wasn't signed, maybe. But as of now, we'll say Kadarius Toney is the worst contract in NFL history.
Fair enough. All right, let's get into the next game. This is Yanni's first pick of the week, and it is the Panthers at Falcons. Take it away, my man.
Yeah, man, you know where I'm at with this, and I'm so firmly there. I really I don't know why the Falcons aren't the favorite to win their division. I don't know why they're not being discussed as a potential top 4, top 8 playoff team. I guess top 8 is playoffs. But I really do think they're live dogs to win a playoff game this year. I really do. I think they match up nicely with every team in the NFC. As a Niners fan, I guess I'm a little biased. They did come in and really pound the Niners last year. It was a brutal game with Cordero Patterson at running back. I would just say that in general, I think Bryce Young isn't ready for the NFL. I think he's 180 pounds. I don't think his game's going to translate well. I had him as the third quarterback in his class. I love Bijan. I truly love Bijan. They added Jesse Bates and Calais Campbell on defense. That's no joke, man. Those are two of the best. In my opinion, Jesse Bates is the best safety in football. Calais Campbell's, perennial All-Pro. And then you have Bijan. And the Panthers' rush defense wasn't horrible last year. Their defense is the strong point in their team, but it's kind of more their pass rush and their passing defense. Their rush defense was all right. So I do not see them being able to stop Bijan. I really don't. I think that Arthur Smith's system fits so perfectly. This is a guy that we've seen get hundreds and hundreds of touches to Derrick Henry. I think it's going to be a ball control game. I think Bryce Young is going to look really bad at the pro level his first few go-arounds. They have receivers injured. DJ Shark's already missing. Adam Thielen has a bad ankle. For multiple reasons, I'm in on the Falcons for sure. I think they take it.
I'll play a little devil's advocate here because I agree with you. I think the Falcons win this game and I think they cover. I think what's important to note is that 67% of the money is on the Panthers in this game and 70% of the bets are on the Panthers this game. And I don't think that's because the public thinks that the Panthers are any better than the Falcons. I think it's because that 3.5 line. So in a game with a low over-under, like 39.5, I think that asking to win by more than a field goal was just too much for people to stomach. So I would assume that's why people are the public is kind of against you on this one. But to me, yeah, absolutely. The only thing I can see getting in the Falcons' way of this one is Arthur Smith giving Tyler Algier like 25 carries. If you draft a guy at 7 overall, workhorse him. This guy could be the next Adrian Peterson. This Bijan's unbelievable, and yeah, it's don't overcomplicate it too much. Get it to your dogs, then the Falcons definitely have them. So that's my read on it. I kind of agree with you. That's not as exciting for a gambling show, but
right. I personally think Bijan's going to come in and be that like 125, 130 yard a game guy, maybe 150 yards a game if he goes wild. Not 150, that's unrealistic, but 120, 130. I think he's going to push. He could push for 2,000 overall yards this year. At the minimum, I think he'll be around 1,500. I think they come out and show you why they took him early.
Well,
I'm very confident.
I'm with you on the talent for sure. For me, it's just a question of opportunity. But we'll see. That's why they play the games, right?
Maybe I'm biased, man. You know where I've been at since they took Bryce Young. I would not have taken him. I would not have taken him that high. I would not have traded 3 1s for him. I don't like his profile in the NFL. We'll see.
So to be honest, I don't watch college football. I don't know much about Bryce Young. I know he's a wee little man that went 1 overall. And I think the Panthers just don't have any. Like, who's he going to throw the ball to? Who is even the receiver on the Panthers?
Well, DJ Shark and Adam Thielen.
Oh, jeez.
And then Mingo, that rookie.
That's disgusting.
Well, Shark's out already with an injury, and Adam Thielen's banged up with an ankle before the year starts.
Yeah,
so it's going to be It's going to be a lot of Miles Sanders. That's why they signed him. That's why he was a good pick in fantasy this year, in my opinion. It's a tough game, man. It's going to be a tough game.
All right, so let's get on to the next pick, and this one is one of mine. So I've got the Jags -4.5 over the Colts. I got them going into Indy and just wiping the floor with the Colts. So the over/under right now is at 46.5 points, and 81% of the total money bet is on the Jaguars, but only 44% of the bets are on the Jaguars. So when you see a big difference with that much money going to one side, but less than half of the bets are on them, that means there's some huge whale sharps that are betting big money on Jacksonville on this one. So this time, I guess I could call myself a sharp now, couldn't I? Right?
Right.
Basically, to me, what this game comes down to, right, is a team that, without a doubt, that we saw last year is just totally on the rise, or at least it seems. They have one of the most up and coming, promising quarterbacks, the prince that was promised, Trevor Lawrence, running the show. And Anthony Richardson is making his pro debut on a team that just stunk last year. The good news is our guy Jeff Saturday is out of town, and now they have Shane Steichen, who I actually really love as a head coach. I think he's a great offensive mind, and I think he will get that team back on track, absolutely. But I think it's a tall task for a team that was down in the pits versus a team that just seems like they're doing all the right things. So to me, I don't know how bought in I am on the Jags this year to make that next step, but I certainly think they have enough in the tank to win this game, especially with the Colts not having JT and losing some dogs on defense. Like, unless Richardson comes out and has one of the best rookie performances I've ever seen, I don't even see this one being close. So I'm fine laying 4.5 here. I just came right through 3. I don't care. I think this could be a multiple touchdown win. I think this is going to be one that you'll bet, and like by halftime you'll be sitting there like, oh, okay, it's over. I'm happy I made that pick.
Yeah, I think this is a great bet this week. It's one I kind of debated on adding to mine. It is kind of interesting that Trevor Lawrence has a pretty big drop off when he's favored or not. There's actually like a pretty sizable difference in how he performs. He performs much better as an underdog, I believe, by like 25 points on QBR. So I guess there's some level of concern there. I think every week, week one, remember last year when the Bears beat the Niners? There's like the Steelers beat the Bengals week one last year. There are weird games week one that for some reason just happen and the outcome's kind of funky. I could totally see this being one of them where just they have no business winning the game and something weird happens. But generally speaking, I maybe you disagree with this a little bit. I think the Jaguars are playing for a championship run this year. I think in their mind, they think they're a top 4 team. I think they think they should be right there with the Bengals, with the Chiefs, with the Bills at the end of the year. To me, there's just a different level of vibe with these two teams. That Jonathan Taylor's gone for the Colts. Doug Peterson has them going, man. I think it's going to be a tough game for the Colts.
So let's get on to the next game. This is another Yanni one.
Yeah, and the line is actually moved. And when we initially set these lines, it was at 5.5. It's moved to 4.5. So obviously, there's some level of money that's causing that movement. I personally look the situation with the Rams. They're currently going into the season with Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee as their top receiving targets. You have Matt Stafford, who it felt like he might retire this year. It felt like they tried to trade him. That things are just not trending well with him. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey. Their defense is basically one guy, right? It's Aaron Donald out there playing. It feels to me like they're contending for the number 1 pick this year. I do not expect them to be a competitive team. The Seahawks added a big bruising back this year in the offseason. They added Witherspoon, they added Jackson Smith and Jigba, both of which are playing this week. At least Jackson Smith, that was not a sure thing. It looks like his surgery went well. He's going to be out there. I really don't see how, with the level of defensive talent the Seahawks are fielding this year, I do not see the Rams scoring points on them. I just don't. I think they have the weapons to ground and pound them half to death. Everyone's kind of predicting that Geno fallback. Geno was a very efficient quarterback last year. He was very productive, actually, shockingly enough. They've now had an additional year to get him in the system. They added a weapon for him. I do not think this game will be competitive. And I think it's going to be a lot of what we see this year from the Rams is non-competitive football.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for me, the only pushback I would have on that is I'm not scared of the Seahawks defense at all. They definitely did add a corner at the fourth overall pick, but last year they were, I believe, 29th in scoring defense. And to me, they didn't do much to shore up not their secondary. So, I mean, I guess I wouldn't call their defense stout by any means. Like, I mean, we could see it. They could prove me wrong, but I think that if you come out and look good against the Rams, that without Cooper Cup, mind you, that's not exactly the foolproof, like, sort of statement game that it could be. And the other thing
Yeah,
too is just I don't know. I don't know if Stafford's dead yet, right? Like, if he can come out and play pretty well, who knows? I think they could put up some points. That being said, I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Seahawks on offense at all. I don't know if I'm bought into Geno yet. To me, he gives me Alex Smith vibes. Like, kind of an okay guy who had a just terrible first 10 years of his career. It came out
right.
and surprised everybody, and everybody felt good about that. I think once they start playing some better defenses and, sticking around in more competitive games, then we'll figure out more about that. But for me, I totally agree with you on Hawks 4.5. Just it's less about the Hawks and more about how pathetic the Rams are to me.
Well, the Rams are really weird, right? They were
Yeah.
in the running. Now, maybe it was just to jack up his price for the Niners. They were in the running for CMC last year at the trade deadline, which I thought was bizarre. And then this year they came out. They tried to ask Stafford to take a pay cut or to diffuse his pit to later years. He said no. There was Matt Stafford retirement rumors. Kelly said he doesn't connect with younger guys. It just seems weird out of the direction that they tried to trade him multiple times. Then Cooper Kupp's banged up now and he's not playing. They got rid of Jalen. It just feels like the direction of the team is very negative. And I think it makes a lot of sense for them to not play their best football this year in general. The only thing they have going for him is a good-looking head coach. Very jealous of the guy, man. His wife's gorgeous. He's rich. He lives in LA. It's amazing.
Don't
The guy
forget
has a great.
don't forget my champion Cam Akers, okay? I think he'll actually have a better year than you'd think.
I'm starting him, dude. I'm starting him over Brees Hall this week.
Let's
I'm starting him over
go.
Brees Hall. But yeah. All right. That's my take though. I'm pretty confident in that game. I don't see it being competitive.
And then we should also mention too, before we move on to the next one, that only 52% of the bets are on the Seahawks, but 85% of the money is on the Seahawks. So you're with the
Whale.
sharps. You're with the whales on this one, my dude.
The whale call, man. Yep.
All right, next one. And this is a game. It is the only free Tendies fantasy agreement of the week. We are in consensus on this one. It is the Eagles and Patriots, and we are both taking the Eagles -4. The over-under for the game is 45, and 65% of the money is on the Eagles, and 66% of the bets are on the Eagles. So you don't have that weird, sharp, big bet whale action going on. It seems like about 2/3 of the people that are betting this game are okay with laying the 4, and we are too. To me, this game boils down to a couple different things. I think the Eagles are clearly very good. The Eagles are clearly very good. Their offense is clearly very good. Their defense has a bunch of dogs on it, plus the addition of Jalen Carter in there on the lines. He's just going to be a monster.
Nolan Smith at middle linebacker. The Eagles are one of the great rosters we've seen in football in the last 20 years. One of the great ones.
Yeah.
Amazing O-line. They added 2 studs on defense. Come on.
And that outstanding defense is going against old McCorkle Jones and the Patriots pea shooter of an offense. The good news is the Patriots brought in Bill O'Brien, so they might not be as terrible as they were last year. But when your primary receiving options are your running back and Devontae Parker, I'm not sold on them getting more than 17 points on this defense, and I think that's being pretty generous. So if you're laying 4, right, it's like, do you think the Eagles can score 21 points on a Bill Belichick defense? And I think if you just look at the rosters, I think that's a safe bet. And this could be another one that I could see being a blowout. And I guess I am a little invested in this take, right? Because it is my hot take that the Patriots stink and Bill Belichick retires. But I truly, I don't think that you should take the Patriots on this one. I think this is a pretty clear and easy one.
Just about that real quick. I don't think there's any way Bill Belichick retires. When he can catch Don Shula's record, I believe it would be next year he could get it. I don't think there's any way he goes before that.
How many more wins does he need?
I don't know the exact number. I believe it was next season would have been his goal. And if I recall correctly, I think he just got rid of his long-term girlfriend. He didn't marry her. He was protecting the finances. But I think he did just give her walking papers, as it were. So he's cutting some fat. He's trimming some fat in his life. It feels like he's really streamlining his priorities, and I really appreciate that about a man. So I think he's gonna chase that record, man. I think he's got a goal in mind. Would it feel right to you if the all-time winningest head coach or the all-time most wins head coach was not Bill Belichick in the record book?
It wouldn't feel right to me.
It doesn't seem anyway. That's how that story ends to me personally. Just about your hot take, not about the game.
I think if our guy, he's going to be going for the record, right? And, trimming the fat and getting it together. Like, why don't you start by building a better roster? And if he needs, 20 more games, let's say, because I don't even know how much it is. Let's say it's 20 more games he needs to win. That could take him 5 years with this team. This team is terrible. This team is so bad. I am all the way out on them. And I could just be being disrespectful, but to me, you look at these rosters. If you just, take print out a piece of paper and put the Eagles roster on a table and look at the Patriots roster, right? To me, a guy like Bill is going to want to be a competitor, right? And I think that having a losing, terrible season is just going to make him not want to do it anymore, to be honest with you.
Well, that's the weirdest thing about I can't even tell you where their money went. If they're really skimpy on one side of the ball, or if there's a lot of schmucks starting on the team, you can point to, there's this oversized contract or this one. They paid Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith top of market deals. I don't know where the rest of their money is, and I really don't. I don't understand. So yeah, it's just that bottom bullet point really is the bottom line. Compare the rosters. Yeah. It's not the Eagles are going to damage some people this year. There are going to be sad fan bases on Sundays after they play the Eagles. They're going to absolutely shame people, I think.
Yeah.
So 4 is way too much. 4 points is way too much respect to give to what Bill Belichick brings to the table.
Absolutely.
The difference between Mac Jones and Jalen Hurts is worth 4 points. Yeah. Seriously. You're talking about an MVP candidate versus I don't know what.
We're recording this after Trey Lance has been traded to the Cowboys, and he just is potentially one of the biggest busts of all time. And I'm still happy we didn't take Mac. If that kind of lets you know my thoughts on him is being a capable quarterback. But anyways, I guess let's move on to the next one, shall we? This is our first and only pick against each other of this week. So the line on this game is the Bears -1.5, and the over/under is 41.5. So that's pretty low. It's a pretty low over/under. We're expecting a low-scoring game here. And this is interesting to note. 80% of the money is on the Packers against the spread, but then when you go to money line, it's only 19% of the money on the Packers. So that means that 60% of the people out there who were making a bet thought that it was worth it to have that extra point cushion for the Packers, which that's your prerogative. I just think that's wrong, though. And then in terms of the actual bets that were placed, 86% of the bets were on the Packers against the spread, and 22% of the bets were on the Packers money line. So I guess just really quick before we even talk about the game, I'll just talk quick gambling strategy here. If you have the option, right? If a game is a 1 point spread one way or the other way, football games aren't usually decided by 1 point, except for I guess we just did see the Chiefs and Lions, right? So sometimes they are, but most of the time they're not. Just because the way the counting is, right? 7s and 3s. It's not like you're playing soccer where it's you're counting by ones. So to me, what you could potentially win on betting a money line bet here, right? So the odds for against the spread are, I think it's 110-ish. Let's say it's 110. So you're betting $100 to win $190 back. Versus if you just bet money line, you say, whatever, it's probably not. Whoever's going to win the game is going to win the game. Then you would get 2-1 and just get an extra $10 for giving up a point. And to me, that's just super worth it. And I think that a lot of people here, I guess the public, just we could say, like it just had too much respect for the point. Like who cares? Just take the extra money if you can. I don't think. I guess if this game is decided by 1 point, if the Bears win by 1 point and you lose because you bet Packers money line, I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry, I'll take a lap on that one. But really, like just in terms of betting philosophy, who cares about the point? You know what I mean? Just get more money. But I guess now, sidebar adjourned. Let's like talk about the actual game. So let's start with you, Yanni. Why do you think the Bears are the pick here? I'm really interested to hear that.
Well, this will be a theme for the next two ones. Look, it's the beginning of the season. I think if you're going to take liberties with your picks and maybe get in your feelings a little bit, it's probably the right week to do it. We don't have a shape necessarily of how these new additions are going to act, how rookies are going to act, whatever. So with the Bears, I think right off the bat, I think they're being undervalued offensively a little bit. I don't know. You saw that Jalen Hurts, well, same idea, right? Justin Fields, MVP, has been creeping up all offseason. And I don't know. People are kind of projecting him for that Jalen Hurts jump this year. I don't know if it'll be quite at that point. My personal opinion is that Justin Fields last year, in terms of a single season, had one of the most dangerous seasons I've ever seen from a player with the ball in his hands. They were, top three in a lot of rushing metrics, offensive rushing metrics, and it was largely in part due, largely due to him. I don't know if the league's respecting that. I don't know if they're respecting what DJ Moore brings to a team, how consistently he brings, moving the sticks, right? And all sorts of elements. And actually, here's one total sleeper thing for fantasy and for the game. I don't know if people know a lot about Roshan Johnson. He was Bijan Robinson's backup in college. He's kind of been afterthought in both the fantasy community and the NFL community. It's not a flashy pick. The reports out of camp, and both what I think when I saw him film, he looks like a legitimate 3-down back to me. He looks like a legitimate pass catching, pass blocking guy. He's going to step in right away on third down plays and be that guy that can squeak out, and catch back. I think highly of the Bears offense because I've always loved Justin Fields. I loved him in college. I wanted the Niners to take him third overall. Little bit emotional on this pick. There's a lot of logical reasons to bet the Packers. The Bears bleed. They hemorrhage rush yards. They hemorrhage rush touchdowns. The Packers are coming in there with A.J. Dillon. They're coming in there with Aaron Jones. But this is Love's first game starting, and they have no Watson. Dobbs is questionable. I don't know if it's going to be the same Packers where even think about for A.J. Dillon or for Aaron Jones. They've been rushing their whole careers with Aaron Rodgers under center. The threat of Aaron Rodgers deep ball, think about how different the defensive coverage they've seen for their entire career is compared to what they're going to see. To me, you're going to play them a lot like you play the Titans in this game. They don't have Watson. They might not have Dobbs. So, taking the Bears. I think the Bears squeak out a big win. I think it's a huge win for their franchise. I think we see Justin Fields doing the IOU on their field.
Man, that is a bold prediction. To me, it just comes down to two things. The first of which being that the Bears were a 3-win team last year, even with Justin Fields having a career year. So they definitely added some good offensive pieces. They got DJ Moore in the building who, I mean, I would argue that his production has never been up to what we thought it would be, right? I feel like the fantasy community largely, and then just like football fans in general, right, have been saying this is DJ Moore's year. This is the year he's going to break out. Watch this. I want him on my fantasy team. I think I'm going to buy his jersey. He's going to be great. And then, like, he just gets let down by his quarterback. He doesn't get the ball. And I think even with Justin Fields, right, with as much progression as we saw him go through last year and as much as we saw him grow as a player, I don't think we saw him grow as a passer very much. He barely passed for 2,500 yards last year. So for me, it just comes down to the Packers defense still being pretty good, right? Like I'm not under the illusion that the Packers offense is going to be better with Jordan Love in there. I'm just not. And on top of that, I also forgot to mention that Christian Watson's out for this game. So that's another strike against the Packers, right? But I just don't think it matters. To me, I think that it's too much respect. There's too much money on the Bears, and there's too much of an idea the Bears are going to win as a 3-win team from last year. I think a lot of that is projection onto Fields. And the Packers, even though they lost Rodgers, they're still returning a lot of the same guys. I think the defense should be solid. And for me, it was worth taking the money line just in terms of like what you get back versus betting the Bears and the extra little juice you get on Packers money line. And I think that this should be a great game, no doubt. I don't see this being a blowout either way, and I think it'll be a game that we get to learn a lot more about these teams, right? Like, how much has Justin Fields developed? What is Jordan Love? I don't even know what Jordan Love is. Some people are under the impression he's good. I don't know. Like, I mean, I remember that one game against the Chiefs where he scored like 3 points, right? And then he came in the second half against the Eagles last year and looked pretty good. So I don't really know what to think of him, but I'm excited for the game.
Do you remember those games last year when I think Watson had a hamstring earlier in the year? Whatever injury he had, he was out for weeks to start the season. Not great that he's out for weeks to start it again because of that old hamstring re-injury rate you're so fond of discussing. But so right, not great, but that's what's happening. Do you remember like when Aaron Rodgers looked lost out there and when the offense looked lost? That was with the same. It was just the only difference was it was Aaron Rodgers. The same offense that's out there on Sunday. So remember the 3-touchdown Randall Cobb game in which I was starting him, by the way. You know, it's just we'll see. I with Watson being out, my money's on the Bears.
I cannot wait to talk smack when the Packers win. Anyways,
We'll see.
on to the next game. And this is the Bills and Jets. This is another one of mine. And there's a lot of notes here because I think this one I got some explaining to do, taking the Bills minus 2.5. The over-under on this game is 45.5, which for a game that's going to feature Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers seems to be a little low, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. 54% of the money is on the Jets in this game, and 69% of the bets are on the Jets this game. So even though I'm fading the public here, there is some big money that it appears came in on the Bills. So it's good to be with the whales, you know, swimming with the whales on this one. For me, this game boils down to a couple of things. First of which being just the preseason hype that the Jets came into the season with. Last year they were a very sad offense. We finally figured out Zach Wilson's terrible at football. One of my worst takes. He was my favorite quarterback out of that class. So I'll just take the L on that one. And the Jets as a team, they had a hot start, and then they just totally petered off and died near the end of the year. They were like kind of in contention for the wild card, but even if they made it, you knew they were the team that's just going to get their teeth kicked in, like as soon as they got in the playoffs, right? So Aaron Rodgers comes to town, which, by the way, I'm from Chico. Like, Aaron Rodgers is a local legend. Aaron Rodgers is one of my favorite football players that there is on this planet. But we saw him last year look like an Aaron Rodgers we haven't really seen before, right? Like, that was tough for him, especially coming off of 2 MVP years. I think that you could definitely attribute a lot of that to the state of the Packers, right? Like, if Romeo Doubs is your number one wide receiver, then that's a tough spot to be in. Just ask Mahomes, right? Like, what happened to him last night? But for me, I'm not sure how much of that was real. Like, I mean, Rodgers, I love him, but he's getting a little bit old. And also the other factor is Josh Allen last year, right? So last year, Josh Allen was probably in the lead for the MVP during the beginning half of the year. He was the top fantasy scorer. The Bills were the top scoring offense. Everything was going just beautifully for the Bills until the Jets game, oddly enough, where he injured his UCL. So at that point, like, as soon as he had that UCL strain, he just was not the same guy. You can look at his numbers pre and post injury, and I think it's pretty clear that even though he's a tough dude and he played through it, right, he was clearly affected. His performance was clearly affected on the field by it, and in turn, the Bills ended up just kind of losing their steam. They peaked a little early, and they just petered out at the end of the year. So I think we're coming into this game with probably a lower opinion on the Bills and what they are than what they actually are. And I think that right now we're just all excited about Aaron Rodgers being on a new team, the optimism of having young studs like Sauce and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson on your team. So I'm kind of, I'm figuring it's somewhere in the middle of all that. So, and I mean, if you look at the Jets, how many times have we seen the Jets in prime time just blow it, right? This to me, it just screams a classic letdown spot for them. So, I mean, when you take all those factors into account and getting the game at 2.5, right? I only need a field goal to win. So a last-second field goal and I cover, I'm in. I'll do it. And to me, like, really, if you look at the Jets' defense, they're good. Like, this could be like a very, very, very special defense. I don't want to undersell them at all, but I think that Buffalo's D, which is I don't think they're as good as the Jets defense, but I think they're right up there. I think they could be 1 or 2 in the league. I think that defensive unit versus the Jets is going to be the X factor. So while I do love Aaron and I like the Jets as a team overall, I don't like him in this one. I would say take the Bills. And the Whales agree with me. So do it. You won't be sorry. You'll be saying, thanks, Ted. That was a great pick. Or you can trash me on Twitter. I mean, one of us is going to be right, right?
Yeah, for me, it's a stay away game. I just don't. We saw that Lions game last year coming off of Hard Knocks. They went into the Eagles, man. They ran the ball down their throat. It was a 35-38 game, close game, tight game. I think there's a lot of emotional momentum. It feels like with the Jets. It feels like they've never had more hope as a fan base, like outside of maybe the LaDainian and Tomlinson years, or maybe Brett Favre or whatever. At least in the last decade, certainly in the last decade, but even a little longer. I feel like they're at an all-time high, both as a coaching staff, as a team. You have a lot of jobs are riding on this, like right now this year, and Aaron took a massive pay cut. There's just a lot of plus factors in terms of the intangibles for the Jets right now. I think on paper the Bills should win. I don't think there should be any debate about that, especially just even the O-line. There's so many questions about the Jets. We're going to have to see how they look in practice. Who knows how many touches Breece Hall's going to get. It's just a stay away for me. I think you're probably right to take the Bills. So it seems like a reasonable. Josh Allen usually crushes it on opening day. Almost always. Dude crushes it on opening day. So I think it's a smart bet.
And there's no shame kicking your feet up on a Monday night and enjoying a great game, right? I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I think that if you are an over/under guy, I didn't pick it on this game, but I really do think this probably is an under. I think both of these defenses are top 5 units, and I think that any points that are scored are going to be at a premium here. So I lean a defensive battle, and don't be upset if your fantasy guys don't have a good week this week for them. Like, these are two.
I'm not starting Hall. I'm not rolling Hall out there in any league. I took him mostly because of the injury, but also I just don't like the game. I think it's going to be gross.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be gross. I mean, even Stephon Diggs, man, he's got Sauce Gardner on him. That's no joke, man. That's a serious matchup to start the year. And who knows, maybe all that bitching and moaning, like what if Josh feels the need to press the ball to him with Sauce in there? It's interesting. It's going to be cool.
What if Diggs just torches Sauce for 150? This could be the flag plant game for them, right? With all the stuff that was being talked about on the Bills. It feels like the Bills have just been a little bit looked over, glossed over this offseason, right? Everybody's been excited about the Jaguars. Everybody's been excited about the Jets. And it feels like there were some weird negative vibes coming from Buffalo. But what if,
it's not weird, dude. It's only been going downhill for years. It's heartbreaking playoff loss. Player dies on the field. Heartbreaking playoff loss. And then discord between the diva wide receiver and the quarterback, losing players. Von Miller ACL. While every roster around them's improving, maybe the Bengals took a step back this offseason, but for the most part, they had what I think they would consider an early playoff exit last year. It's the arrow's pointing in one direction. And now this one is, again, just a conversation we've had. This is way beyond the game. It's just something that I think is worth monitoring. How does a quarterback who consistently gets in car crashes generally age in the NFL? You had Big Ben, Big Ben didn't run nearly as much as Josh. He wasn't dropping a shoulder on linebackers, going 20 miles an hour. In general, I would say it's probably a truism in the NFL. As these mobile quarterbacks pile more and more hits, more and more damage, you start to see the wheels fall off a little bit. And I think there's a genuine question about how long is Josh Allen in the Bills window. I know you think that's ridiculous. He's so talented. He's got such a ridiculous mix of physicality and arm strength. He really is like a generational talent. Maybe that's not the case. Cam Newton went from MVP, Super Bowl to Mac Jones backup in the span of a few years. So I do think there's also just kind of this interesting. There are interesting meta narratives around the Bills that I'm super excited to watch this year. And it's amazing to me that it's already started between Diggs and Allen. Before the year started, we had the dude walk out in a training camp. It's just, at least to whatever degree you value momentum, and intangibles and emotional state, I think one team is clearly going in one direction, the other team's clearly going in another. And it makes the game really interesting. I mean, I'm really excited.
Absolutely. So let's get to the last game. And this is a Yanni special, and it is the 49ers at Steelers. So take it away, my guy.
Sticking with the team of betting emotionally and impulsively, I'm all in on this one. Again, this is week one. I'm gonna take some weird picks this week because I've really invested. It's probably what would be called bias. I've really invested a lot of time this offseason and how I feel about things. And as Bill Burr says, we all love how we feel, man. We all sit there and have those conversations where we know we're right. We really like what we think. And I'm one of those people for sure. And one of the things I often have that conversation about is how good the 49ers are and how good Kyle Shanahan's been as a 49ers head coach. I think we're seeing the start of what could be a legendary career. This guy's young, man. He could coach another 20 years easily. He comes from a legendary coaching tree. His father changed the NFL. He changed the trajectory of running backs in the NFL. He changed what a championship team is defined as for decades. It was his system that defined that. I think this is a young stud who every year he's had a healthy quarterback, has either made it to the championship or to the Super Bowl. This roster is so good. It is, again, one of the best rosters in the NFL in the last 20 years. The disrespect is getting to a point that I cannot stomach, where people are saying this is an even money game in terms of talent on both sides of the ball. I just don't agree with it. I think it's flat out incorrect. Mike Tomlin probably gets the edge as a head coach on Kyle. He has a Super Bowl. But he is like a career 500 coach, more or less. He's right around there. Kyle's much more new school in terms of his NFL play calling. And again, this is really much less about the game. I think the game's going to be violent. I think it's going to be one of the more violent football games we've seen in a long time in the NFL. These guys, both of these franchises have a philosophy, a very old school philosophy about how football is played right now. And they're both built really around the defense and the smash mouth run game. I think Kenny Pickett versus Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy led the NFL in QBR last year. He was the most efficient quarterback in the NFL after he started in Miami, or after he played Miami from the next start on. It appears he's healthy from his UCL. I guess that is interesting and worth monitoring. I don't like how the right tackle matches up with TJ Watt. I think that's a problem. That's a very real factor in the game. I don't know if TJ Watt will be blockable.
The disrespect for Colton McKivitz right now is palpable. I cannot believe you just said that.
Right. But I don't know if Nick Bosa is blockable. One of the interesting things last year, Christian McCaffrey is one of the most effective screen receivers in the NFL that the NFL has ever seen at running back. And Kyle Shanahan calls screens at one of the lowest in football. And one of the interesting things that he was getting asked about toward the end of last season is, why aren't you calling more screens? And screens do neutralize pass rush, and that's actually a huge tool in the Niners tool belt. Without George Kittle there, the play action is going to be a little less effective. I think you probably see a lot more screens worked into the Niners system that were not there last year. So I'm kind of excited to see, do the screens play into this game? I think they might. And just generally speaking, I'm going to take the team with multiple top 10 players at their position on both sides of the ball. I don't think their roster. I actually think very highly of the Steelers. I think the Steelers are an excellent roster. Just not better than the Niners. Just not better than the Niners. And this is more because I'm tired of seeing it. Whatever the Steelers guy is on Pat McAfee's show, that man's sickening. This stupid little signed helmet and beard. I don't like that guy. And I'm just tired of it's on everyone's list. I think this is like one of the games that's being most bet in the country right now. This is the Steelers to go out there and slap the Niners around. When did they win a playoff game last? Was it getting knocked out by the Browns? Didn't Baker Mayfield knock the Steelers out? Wasn't that the last time they played?
I think the last time the Steelers played in the playoffs, it was 2 years ago against the Chiefs, and they lost by like 40. They were like the 7th seed. It was the first year they added the extra wild card, and the Steelers got in and just got dog walked by the Chiefs. That's what it was.
But don't I remember? Didn't Baker beat the Steelers? Am I tripping? Or Myles Garrett against Mason Rudolph or something? Maybe that was an end of season.
That might have been the year before. The Steelers make playoffs a lot. Like, even when they have bad years, like, there's still a lot of times to sneak in. Mike Tomlin, favorite stat you've probably heard everybody say, he's never been under 500 in his career, which is pretty impressive, especially for as long as he's been around.
Well, sure. Right. It's all right. They're all right. They're good. And I think it's more Niners disrespect than it is Steelers respect. I think it's more the idea that what Brock Purdy showed last year could not have been. And I don't think it's accurate, man. I don't have very much. I wish I could give you statistical analysis. I just do not see what the sharps are in on. I do not see what the market cares about in this game so much. And to the answer, am I a shameless homer? Absolutely. Shamelessly.
Well, what if I
What?
told you that George Kittle was playing in this game? How much more confident would you be in your take? Because your argument was already wildly compelling.
Well, I mean, I think they're kind of used to playing without George at this point. He doesn't George Brittle, right? I don't know. I think it's all just prognostication. I really don't know. It's hard to say what they're going to come out with. Here's what I know. Kyle adds wrinkles every offseason, right? There's no year does it come back and it looks exactly the same. That was one of the big things last season that I think was underrated. They built the offense for Trey, and then within 2 games, it's Jimmy in there. So it actually is. We didn't get to see the wrinkles that he added to the offense around that. He has Christian McCaffrey now for a whole offseason. One of the easiest ways to neutralize a pass rush is to do those nice bootlegs that he likes or those nice screenplays that Kyle's so fond of. I think you're going to see a lot, maybe similar to his Matt Schaub offense, some of those plays. But also just in general, screens are not something he's liked to call in his career. That has not been his thing. I think you're going to see a lot of that. I think you're going to see a lot of that folded in over the year. And I think maybe you'll see some of it poke its head out. So I'm not particular. Does Kittle play or not? I would imagine he doesn't.
Well, he said he's playing. That's why I said that. He said he's playing. He said,
Really?
I'm excited to play football on Sunday, yeah. So I thought you'd be excited, but you kind of went into explaining more that he doesn't matter. So I'm kind of sad. That didn't go the way I thought it did. But yeah, Kittle's playing.
Well, it's not. I mean, so the one thing, the biggest difference off the bat is he's going to be chipping TJ Watt a lot. He's going to be helping on blocking TJ Watt. So that is relevant, certainly. Is he? Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
Do I want to start him, or do I want to start Dalton Kincaid? On probably Kittle, right? You probably have to start him if he's playing.
Yeah, I think. Well, we were just talking about the Jets' defense, right? I'd probably go Kittle. Might as well. You drafted him high.
I didn't draft him.
I don't think this. I don't have this chalked up as a huge George Kittle game, but I'm just happy he's going to be out there on the field. And I guess just to play devil's advocate with this whole thing, because, listen, I'm a Niners fan too. As negative as I can be about this team sometimes, I really do truly want this team to succeed. But I think that a lot of the way the action has gone and a lot of the betting just has to do with the crazy tumultuous offseason that the Niners had. Everything appeared to be in disarray. You have just the crazy mismanagement of the Trey Lance situation. You had the Nick Bosa holdout. You had Brock Purdy with a robot arm. We didn't know. He had the UCL repair, and we didn't know if he'd be back. But, I mean,
Right.
Given all of those really just negative, bad feeling things that happened to the Niners, right? Like, what really was negative that happened? Like, we lost Trey Lance, sure, but Bosa's back, and Purdy was healthy before we thought he would be. So I think that a lot of that negativity could be overblown. And maybe the Niners come out here and just have a dominant performance, and all of a sudden all those negative reports are just happy stuff again. You never know.
Well, just to digress on the Niners for a second, they added the best safety in the draft. They added a top 5 D tackle. They could have had Buckner instead. Probably a mistake to what they did, but they added Hargrave. That's all right. He's a savage. And then the line hasn't moved that much when in the beginning of this week they did not have Nick Bosa and George Kittle. So it's up to you, man. Do you think, as a bettor, if the line hasn't moved and you think those guys are worth a point and a half, I don't know what you think they're worth, but Nick Bosa is the best non-quarterback in football. He was not factored into the team as of 5 days ago. He is now. George Kittle is the best run blocking and pass blocking tight end in football, and one of the best receiving tight ends in football. Those guys, and Brock Purdy's favorite red zone target. Neither of those guys were factored into the team earlier this week when the lines were set.
Yeah.
So, if you take those guys seriously, if you think they're worthwhile, they probably should be factoring into your betting pattern.
And going back to our conversation just a little bit earlier, right? You're getting 2.5 here. If the Niners get a last-second field goal by whoever the kicker is going to be this game, hopefully it's Jake Moody, then you win, right? Like, I think that if you get the positive side, like 3.5, I might be a little bit more out on this, but man, 2.5 is not a bad number. That's for sure. My personal philosophy is don't bet your team. Because if you bet your team and they lose and you lose your bet, then you're just double sad and your Sunday's tanked. So I'll just kick my feet up on this one, put on my Debo jersey, and be, I guess, rooting for you, Yanni. Anyways, that's going to do it for us. If you made it through this whole video, thank you very much. Please, yeah, good for you. That was, we really went for it. We went down some rabbit holes today, but I think it's all good stuff, and hopefully giving you good and smart picks, smart gambling picks, right? But yeah.
If you didn't, let us know. Let us know in the comments. I read hostile comments. I might even respond to them. That might even be something I spend hours of my life doing, is responding to hateful comments. So go for it.
Yeah. If you get a comment from our channel, you have to guess which one of us left it. We might be playing good cop, bad cop with you. Who knows? Right. But please like, subscribe. Let us know how great of gamblers we are or terrible of gamblers we are in the comments. And we will catch you on Tuesday for the front office episode. So, yeah. Take it easy.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah, catch you next time.